Hello, welcome to my channel. We are still in our containerization series, and in this video, we are taking it a step further. We are looking at the very popular Kubernetes. Kubernetes. I know you've heard of Kubernetes. In this video, we are going to be revealing what really Kubernetes is, and we'll be doing a little bit of practical around it. So let me share my screen. Yeah, so just to lay a bit of foundation and to allow us have clear perspectives around what Kubernetes really is. We started with Docker and we spoke about that's the entire containerization series. We started with Docker, we spoke about how we can use Dockerfile to create images. So we started with Dockerfile, using it to create images. Then from Dockerfile, we moved a little bit forward and we started with, I believe, Docker Compose. And we said Docker Compose allows you to run multiple services, multiple containers using the YAML file, the Docker Compose file, as it may be. Then from Docker Compose, we said Microsoft had a solution that is similar to Docker Compose, but it's kind of like native to the Azure environment, and they call that Azure Container Group. So we did a lot of practicals on Azure Container Group, and I believe that we saw how application databases could be interconnected within by using Azure Container Group. So now we are taking it a step further. So this is like the third layer. Is it third? From Dockerfile to Docker Compose to container group. So this is like the fourth layer that we are looking at now, and we are looking at the Azure Kubernetes service. Azure Kubernetes service. Before I really start on the Kubernetes service that is available on Azure, let's just speak a little bit about what Kubernetes really is. So on my page here, let me just go to Kubernetes so that we can see the interface. So let me click on create, even though I wouldn't be using this now. Yeah, so basically what really is Kubernetes? We've already spoken that when we want to run multiple containers, we want to interconnect multiple containers, we use the container group. So why the need for Kubernetes? So Kubernetes allows us to manage our containers more effectively. So it's a container orchestration tool, and it's something that you might think it's not so important, but when you start to deal with real life applications, you are going to see that it's not something that you can do without. And let's look at a simple scenario. Let's say you have a solution, a software, a business software. A typical solution will have a database. There will be a layer for database, another web layer, there will be a web layer, there will be a business layer, there will be another layer for logging. So Kubernetes allows all these different layers to act as a single unit. That's essentially what Kubernetes is, and we'll be looking at the different components around Kubernetes. So Kubernetes, that's the Kubernetes service on Azure. It's a managed version of the Kubernetes open source tool. So it's open source the same way Docker is also open source. But Microsoft have a service for it, a managed service for it. It allows you to load balance your containers. So your containers, you are able to scale up or scale out as needed. And it really allows you to manage containers more. And very, very useful when you have a lot of containers, as the case may be. I mean, in this demo already, I could remember one of the last video we had on container group, we had a service for the web app, we had a service for the database. And that's a very, very simple application. Talking about when you are dealing with real life applications. So you would most likely have to deal with a lot of containers. And when those containers are really, really so much, it's important you have a way for them to act as a unit, for them to understand themselves more easily. So you can do some of this using Docker Compose and the container group, but it's not as effective as when you are using Kubernetes, and you wouldn't be able to scale as well. So basically, so there's what we call the Kubernetes cluster. You know, earlier on I spoke about different layers for a typical solution that have multiple containers. So all these multiple containers are what will make up our Kubernetes cluster. And this Kubernetes cluster, what it really does is that it helps you to fit your different containers into a single unit. So we are still going to be speaking around, we are going to be looking at how it achieves that. And these clusters, the Kubernetes clusters, is made up of nodes. And these nodes are essentially virtual machines. So I said for a typical application, database, business layer, web app, login. So all these containers would require their own virtual machines. So these virtual machines can be made up of one or multiple nodes. And these nodes, we have the master node and we have other smaller nodes that are being controlled by the master node. So these nodes, as I said earlier on, they are really virtual machines. And when you are using the Kubernetes service on Azure, these nodes are managed by Azure. So all you just need to do is to specify the number of nodes that you want to be working with. Then all containers, they run on these nodes, and the master node, what it does is that it ensures that other nodes work appropriately. And this master node is made up of an API server and a cluster store. And um, resources such as the kubelets, the container runtime, and the kubectl are installed in the smaller nodes. And they are what ensures that there's a kind of connection between it and the master node. We also have what we call pods. So these pods are kind of like the unit of deployment of containers. And when you have a particular container um, working, so that container, you can have like either one pod or like 3 pods or 5 pods. It's just like you are duplicating the content of the container in several places. So if you are making use of 3 pods for a single container, then um, um, you want traffic to be served across those 3 pods. So that's essentially what pods are. And pod is part of deployment. Suppose you have a web app running in a container, as I said earlier on, there's a deployment container that is used to load balance the application across different pods running the same container. Okay, so basically, I'm sure that by the time we start doing the practical aspects, all these theoretical explanation around that, how Kubernetes work, will become clearer. So what I will do now is, let's just go straight to the practical. So I think let me stop the video here, and in the next video, we would work with the practical.